Thanks to everyone for joining. My name is Dr. Ghaznia, and I am a Canadian dentist. I went to the University of Toronto, believe it or not. And then basically after first year, or actually after last year of dental school, I graduated. I challenged the US boards. My husband was getting a transfer over to Texas, like some kind of a job transfer, and I moved, and that's where I started my dental journey. So it's been all here. A lot of people ask me, well, how is it being an international student? It's not really being an international student. Um, you have to challenge all the same boards. They're all ADA accredited schools, so I didn't really feel any kind of a difference. But obviously, when you're learning, you learn a lot. So I think I wanted to put together this presentation because a lot of people come to me and ask me, well, how did you learn this and how did you learn that? And I do think I have a little bit of a different journey. So after my bachelor's of science, I did a management and business degree. Or business, yeah, business management degree. So did a master's in marketing, business management, and then worked corporate marketing for about a year or two. So I did work in, I would say, media. And so it wasn't social media, believe it or not. Instagram was not that big back then. But regardless of it, did that, realized definitely don't want to do this, want to do dentistry, want to work with my hands. And I got into dental school, finished it, and that's how it kind of started. So my journey itself has been that I worked for a DSO for about 2 years, I want to say 2.5-ish years, had some kids, and then then decided, okay, I want to start looking for my own practice. So around year three, I decided to look for my own practice. And I swear to you, back then, Instagram was there. It was around COVID. So I had a lot of time, but there was no real like step by step on what you should do. And that's where I felt like, okay, if I ever had to teach this, I would kind of walk you through the basics. So I'm assuming all of you guys are dental students. And if any of this information is not, like if I'm just talking and you're like, I have no clue what she's talking about, just stop me and Nadia will moderate the questions. So first, we're going to talk about how you would find your first dental practice. Then we're going to talk about where to start when it comes to marketing. Then we're going to talk about social media, and then I'll take you through a cosmetic case. Let's start with finding a dental practice. So there's two ways you buy a dental practice. So first of all, I'm really glad I worked it at a DSO and kind of made my mistakes before I moved into my private practice. I see a lot of new grads, graduating and saying, "Oh, I think I'm going to buy a practice." But then when I look at the skill set that they have, I'm like, "You're not going to be profitable." So I do think you really have to evaluate, like, are you ready to not be profitable if you don't have the right skill set? So I would say, if you are in a saturated area, you want to have a skill set. You want to know how to do some cosmetic dentistry, definitely Invisalign, and, at least start thinking about dental implants, right? That's going to get the higher end patients in your door. So that's number one. So once you've decided, okay, I got my skill set, I am now looking at either a startup or an acquisition. Can anyone tell me, like, I guess, can any of you guys tell me which one would you lean towards in the beginning of your career? I don't know if Nadia, we can make this interactive.
Yeah, if anyone wants to also unmute and answer up,
Or
that's also
even like
fine too.
text message and Nadia can read, or like
Yeah.
whatever, DM and Nadia can
Um,
read it.
we had someone say startup, acquisition, more acquisition. Uh,
Okay, cool. Yeah, just read the comments. If I ask a question, write it, and then Nadia will read the comments. Okay, so a lot of people think the startup, that's where they want to go. They're like, I can make and build this sexy practice, which is going to cost like anywhere, depending on where you live, 500,000 plus, right? At the minimum. And all you get with that is a shell of really pretty equipment. and all of that. And how you would go about doing a startup is you would hire a dental broker, and that's totally free. And that dental broker would, essentially look at locations for you and say, oh, there's population growth here, or there's this here, or there's an empty space here you can take on, show you the stats, and then you would decide. Another way to think is, hey, I live here. I only want to live here. Here's a lease space. I'm going to start my own practice. I will say the thing with a startup is you need to be prepared for a 2-year grind. My sister-in-law, for example, she's super brave. She's taken on someone else's startup who had to leave the practice for whatever personal reason, and she, took over the startup kind of situation, but they had a few years of dental history, so she had some numbers to work with, right? Otherwise, you're basically starting from scratch and you're looking at spending anywhere from $50 to $100,000 in your very first year just investing in marketing to get patients in your door. Okay. So I'm going to tell you that all the things that I did was, instead of going that route, I had kids, I did an acquisition. And the way to do an acquisition is, a lot of you guys graduate. Like, how many of you guys want to do a partnership versus retire? Which one would you choose?
I'm
Which
looking
one would you
at
prefer?
someone said partnership, someone said retire. We got retire, retire, retire.
Okay, good, smart group. Okay, so I see a lot of dentists that are like, I want to do a partnership. Well, I mean, the overhead in a dental office is so high that unless you're working in an extremely rural area where you guys would be kind of like the only options and you're grossing $2+ million, there's not much meat to kind of tear between two partners or multiple partners unless you're taking on, and then you're also buying out their share, which you're probably going to be spending quite a bit of money just to buy their share out so that you can profit share. The point is, partnerships in dentistry are not easy unless you have a family member, a dentist, like a friend, whatever. That may work. What I did was I took over a retiring doctor's practice. So after working at a DSO, I bought my first practice. This was about 5 years ago. And then 2 years after that, I bought my second practice. And both of those practices were from a retiring doctor. What I loved about that is they already had 35+ years of patients, right? So I made money day one. Okay. And that was great for me as a mom because I didn't have to worry about where my next paycheck is coming from or how I'm going to pay the bills and all of that. So you've got to realize, like, what is it that I want to do? Do I want to make money, or do I want to start kind of my own boutique cosmetic type practice? What's going to fulfill you more? I know when you graduate, at least with the kinds of debts that you guys are graduating with, I personally would do an acquisition, but depending on how much, like I said, what your buying power is, you may want to decide between the two. Are there any questions on how you would go about doing either of these?
Just gonna give it a second in the chat.
Are we good?
Yeah, I think we're good. Doesn't seem like any questions as of yet.
Okay. So, for startups, you're going to have to do marketing, but
Dr. Khan,
uh-huh.
sorry, we have a couple questions. If do you want me to do
Yeah,
that?
yeah, let's do that.
One person asks, how do you go about finding a retiring dentist who is willing to sell? And then the next question after that is, how do you find the people you can talk to about buying a practice?
Yeah. So in your local area. So for example, if I'm in Dallas, do Google Dallas dental brokers, right? And here you're going to find some websites in your local area that are advertising practices for sale. That's one easy way to go about it because you'll have like a list of things that you can go see. And then you'll identify some brokers you like that you want to work with to find that retiring doctor. That's one way. Another way is, hey, I want to live in area X. I literally Google older dentists over 60, in that area, in that zip code. And I go through the Google listings and I go on their page and I'm like, oh, this guy's kind of older. This guy's kind of older. Drop by with like a box of donuts and say, hey, I really love this area. It's home or whatever your reasons are. If you're ever looking for help or an associate, or you don't want to scare them either and just say, I'm here to buy your practice. No, right? Like if you're ever, available to chat, I'd love to see, how your practice is doing and offer that olive branch. I know a lot of doctors are not comfortable doing that, but there's nothing wrong with that. The other thing you can do is you can actually go to your reps. So you have a lot of reps. That's how I found my second practice. You have a lot of reps, like so you'll have like an implant guy, a supplies guy, a lab guy, whatever. Let them know, hey, I'm in the market for a dental office. If you know anyone retiring, please send them my way. Of course, I'm going to make it worth your time. That's exactly how I bought my second office. And, they will definitely have doctors that are just ready. And they'll be like, oh, have you talked to so and so? And you're like, no, like, do you mind connecting us? And you just go for a meeting and see if they want. I do that all the time. If like we're already scouting for a third location, and even then, I do reach outs like that. I would say every month, I have a few doctors I reach out to like that. So those are the things that no one tells you that where you can't even avoid all the broker fees because brokers will take like 5 to 10% of whatever the practice purchase price is. So that gets built into your purchase price. Whereas if you find someone yourself, they save money, you save money. It's not the easiest if you just want someone to guide you. My first office was totally through a dental broker. They literally walked me through each step, and I made mistakes, and I learned from those mistakes. And then my second practice, I was like, oh, yeah, I know what I'm doing. And I found the doctor myself. Any other questions on this topic?
Someone did ask, does the buyer pay for the broker or the seller?
It's a seller.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of the times when I go to if I'm going to meet a doctor, I say, hey, I mean, I think it would be worth your time as well to look into this because you can obviously, um, you know, because what happens with these retiring doctors is that they get sucked into like 2 or 3 year dental contracts. And then at any given time, when they put that on the market for like 2 years, they get stuck and they cannot sell this practice without going through this broker. And so if you explain that to them and say, I'm really interested, I'd love to know what your practice is all about and make it very, very personal. Don't just say, well, what are you looking for? But really make it personal and let them know that you really want to help take care of their patients. More than likely, if they're 65 plus, they're done. They're done. And women, I would say even younger, because at that point they're ready to retire. Any other questions, Nadia, on this one?
We had someone ask, what made you want to buy your own practice rather than going into owning a DSO?
Owning a DSO?
Like, what made you want to buy your own practice rather than going into owning a DSO? Sorry.
Like if I was to own a DSO?
Um, for the
Working in DSO.
for the person who messaged that, she said yes.
So why would I want to buy versus working at a DSO? If that's the question, more money and being your own boss and being able to practice dentistry your own way. I think at a DSO, it's a great place to learn if you're at a good DSO, but it's all about volume. It's all about like how they can make more and more money. And even if you help them make more money, it doesn't always, yes, your paycheck goes up, but if you took all that effort and worked for yourself and grinded for like about 2 years or so and put in the work, you would make a lot more money. So it's not just about the money. For me, it was about autonomy, being able to do dentistry my way. Once you do a few years at a DSO, I think you get burnt out, right? And I was burnt out. I mean, I'm a mom. I don't want to do 3 columns of work all the time and then have to report into some random person with no dental degree and tell them, well, I only made $150,000 for you this month, and this is the reason. And I was doing really well. I was like top 10% earning doctors. But then I realized I'm like, I would look at their P&Ls and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm making so much money for them. I could be, if I took like 30% of this home, that would be double the salary. It's also double the work in the first 2 years. So don't think that it comes with no compromises or sacrifices.
And Dr. Khan, another question was, what would be the reason to purchase another practice? Is it better to max out on growth potential in the first practice, or is it easier to fill your schedule with two practices?
So the multi-practice owner life, not a lot of people do that. Let me just make that very clear. I don't know many people or many doctors. When I say people, I'm obviously referring to dentists. I don't know many dentists that go down that route. I think you're always going to make a lot of money for yourself if you work at one practice and you really grow it and you put in that effort and you are the primary doctor there. The multi-practice owner life, I think, is for someone that genuinely enjoys the business side of things. That someone who sees themselves and has a vision on what they would do with these multi-practices. Like, so for me, I know what my like 5 or 10 year vision is, and I love that aspect. If you told me, hey, one day you won't do anything clinical, but you'll have multiple locations, I would be okay with that, and that would fulfill me. Some dentists are not like that, right? I know actually many dentists will say, no, I just want to be in the office. I don't want to think about what's happening and what the profitability is and this and that. So in terms of money, I think it depends. I think for me, I wanted to buy some of my time. So right now I only work 2 to 3 days a week. And between the two offices, as long as, obviously I have a ton of help, I have a ton of staff. But between the two offices, I can buy some of my time to be at home.
We have a couple more questions in here. Actually, a few.
Nice. We have 10 more slides.
Okay, do you want to do the slides and then go back to this, or do you want to?
Let's take like one or two that you think are really good, and then we'll go from there.
And we can always do some of these at the end too.
hmm
Um,
I have a Q&A built in, so don't worry about that. But I know this is a very loaded, like I don't have a lot of text here, and this is a very loaded slide. And I feel like you could probably do a presentation on each of these. So that's why I did want to answer more questions because I feel like that helped direct the conversation.
couple things. I guess I'm just gonna kind of try to summarize it. But like, how is it good to decide? Like, what are good factors to decide like what the right practice is to look for? And then also, even if it's like a retiring dentist, like their practice, um, and then um, and like, is it hard to find dentists that might be in line with your goals or vision?
Oh yeah. I mean, the biggest challenge about buying a retiring doctor practice is, in my opinion, don't expect a ton of support, right? They've already worked their dentistry. They're not going to listen to you. They have run this office with their vision, and to transfer your vision into it will take a couple of years. That's why I don't believe in extremely long transitions with the retiring doctor because you're going to butt heads and they're not going to like, I think they tend to forget where they were 30 years ago or 40 years ago. And the fact that you take on all this debt to now buy this practice that they are now running with pretty much little to no debt. So I feel like having a short transition time and getting to know the patients and investing in the patients that's what's going to help you kind of, extend that vision. Any retiring doctor practice you acquire, the patients are typically going to be older. They're going to be like 50 plus. They would have grown up with that, right? So what happens is for the first 2 years, those are the patients I saw. And then they started to get older and they're like, I don't know if I want to drive for you. And then I started advertising and marketing and I got local patients. Now my patient population is getting younger and younger every year to match my age because I'm attracting more patients my age. How do you know if a practice is right for you? And this is where I think having some business knowledge is important. With any practice that is up for sale, you are going to get a couple years of history of how much they're producing. Remember, production means nothing, collections is everything. If you look at what I produce on paper, I would be considered extremely, extremely rich. If you look at what I collect, I am a normal dentist, right? I mean, we do well, thankfully, we're doing good. But the point is that collections and what you're able to collect from the insurance company is what goes in your pocket and is what goes towards paying your staff and paying your bills and paying yourself. So I would ask for collection reports for at least 3 years so you see the trend. A lot of retiring dentists, once they get closer to retirement, they're done. They're not practicing extremely complicated dentistry. But some things that I look for when I buy a practice, couple things. So number one, I don't want to buy an extremely expensive practice. I want to buy a practice where there's room for growth because I do offer a lot of procedures that retiring dentists won't. Root canals, cosmetic dentistry, Invisalign, implants. A lot of retiring dentists are not used to, at least at this time, offering these kind of services. So I look for a practice that's grossing anywhere from like 400 to 800,000 maximum in collections, working 3 to 4 days a week and not doing anything related to specialty. That is what I call like a golden goose. And then ideally would have two full hygienists who have been able to retain these patients. So, if you are able to find that, these are not easy practices to find. These are not like a lot of my friends come to me and they're like, well, why can't I just put an offer on a practice and buy it with you? And I'm like, yeah, they won't sell it to you. I mean, you have to date these doctors to try to convince them, especially if they know they have a good practice with loyalty to sell it to you. But those are usually my metrics when I want to buy practices. I know a lot of younger dentists, they go for really sexy looking practices. I don't look at that. I don't care. If you saw the second practice I acquired, it was paper charts. You would be mortified. You'd be like, what is this? I was mortified. There was asbestos in the building. I had to abate the asbestos. I did a full reno. And now it's a pretty nice facility. I mean, it's not super luxurious, but it's pretty nice compared to what it was. And so I don't look at those things. I just look at numbers and number of active patients.
Okay, so we do have a bunch of questions, but I think we can do a few slides and maybe come back to this if that.
Yeah, let's do that. I love that. I love that you guys are interested in this because I do think no one gives you like a step by step. And once you do it enough, it's like raising a child. Once you raise a child, you know how to raise all the others. It's the same thing with buying a practice. Once you've done one, you kind of know the steps. And you also realize at that point, this is for me or this is just not for me. So I do think that that's great. Okay. So next, so you've bought your practice, whether it's an acquisition or a startup, you've now bought your practice. Whatever I say here applies to both, right? So if you don't want to spend 50 to $100,000 in your startup, you can still use these principles without, like, how many of you would hire a marketing agency to do your marketing? Would you hire a marketing agency to do your marketing? Because that's what you're told to do when you do a startup.
Someone said probably, someone else said I wouldn't. Waiting on more responses in case anyone would like to
So
respond.
you wouldn't, but you don't know how to do any of this, correct? So what I'm about to go through is it's like you could take notes, but what I'm about to go through is like, how do you even start to tackle something like this without hiring a marketing agency? Because when you're making no money, if you're at a startup, paying $5,000 to $10,000 to an agency to do all of this for you, I think is insane. Like, I really think we should have this whole slide as a whole course, right? But we're not allowed to make dentistry marketable, but that's really what you have to do. So, I'm going to go through what I think is the most important in order of priority. And that's why I kind of put it on this pyramid. So, the first thing, if you didn't want to hire a marketing agency, that you would do is you would hire a web design. agency, right? A web designer. The very first practice I acquired, I think I made my own website. It was awful, but I did it. And then I realized it's not doing anything for me. And, then I got a proper designer. Now, I would never build a 10 or $15,000 website. I don't know what crazy, I mean, that's a crazy budget. Like I'm more frugal. So what I did was I actually hired an SEO expert. Does everyone know what SEO means? Search engine optimization. So when you go on Google and you search dentist near me, right? You should be coming up. There are two ways that you come up through paid ads, right? So you invest in Google ads or through optimizing your SEO on your website so that you rank. So for example, if you want to do a lot of Invisalign, right? And you've made a website, but your Invisalign has no mention of your website has no mention of Invisalign, you're not going to rank organically. So you can do all these paid ads, but you're not going to rank organically. That's why you need to hire. Like these are the experts you need to hire. These are the experts I did pay thousands and thousands of dollars, and it's paying off now. So you hire an SEO expert or an SEO company, and most often what they're going to do is rewrite everything on your website. And they even have packages to design your website for free as part of their optimization. How SEO works is they're going to rewrite it, they're going to post it for you. Your website's going to be active and your phones are just going to start running like crazy. This pyramid works together. So once you have a good website, they're going to update your content. So I have an ongoing membership. They're going to update your content every like month or 2 months or 3 months with trending things, with what people are looking for in the area, all of that. That is going to make your website come, higher and higher on the organic search through good content, through content that people in your area are searching. So they're going to say, hey, these are the top 10 words that do really well. Teeth whitening, Invisalign, dentist near me. They're going to rewrite your copy and plug these like, names in everywhere. Is everyone following so far, or is everyone lost? Because this is really marketing centric. Everyone's following? We're
Yes, people are saying they're following.
okay, good. Just because I know for me, a lot of this is like common knowledge. So I'm really trying to break it down. But if at any time you're like, I have no clue, just interrupt. So once you have a good website, it takes about 6 to 8 months for your SEO to actually track organically, right? So that's number one. The reason why you need this is whether it's your Instagram, whether it's your Google listing, what are people going to do? Wherever they go, they're going to link out to your website. And if your website sucks, they're not going to come back. If the user experience sucks, they're not going to come back. If it's hard to get to the call button, they're not going to come back. If it doesn't have all the things and all the language that people are looking for in your area, they're not going to come back. So you want to make sure that that is all there. And that's why getting a good website designer and an SEO expert will be the best money spent, and you will not notice the return until it's about 6 to 8 months down the line. Okay, that is the base. That's why I call that the base, because the first thing, what do you think? What do you think the first thing is that people start doing when they're thinking of doing marketing? Can you guys like what do I most commonly see when people say, "Oh yeah, I am doing marketing." They're starting an Instagram page and they're marketing to 100 people, half of which are their friends and family members that think your videos are cringe, right? Like they're really not, and like who are you driving? Your friends and family to where? To nothing. So that's why it's really, really important you guys start with the basics. It's really important you optimize the user experience on your website, make it really, really easy for patients to pick up the phone and say, I got to call this person now. Okay. The next thing, and this is so important, and I think a lot of people just don't even know. When you buy a practice, your Google listing is so important. So how does your business come up in the maps. My biggest recommendation is if you can buy a practice and name it something to do with location. So, for example, Dallas is huge, but I'm just going to use it as an example. Dallas Veneers or Dallas Dentist. Like my handle is Fort Worth Dentist. It's the first website in the area where Fort Worth Dentist is in my URL, right? So I that's a part of your website design that where whenever you have a website, do that. Get something with your location because what do people search most commonly? Location dentist. Location dentist. So your Google listing is the first like billboard that pops up. So you got to optimize that. What do most dentists do, especially when they're retiring, is they won't have any pictures, they won't have any photos. So my sister-in-law, for example, she did her startup. She like shared that listing with like 50 of her local friends. Because remember, Google is not stupid. Google knows. You get your friends in Canada to write reviews for you in on your Google listing in the US, that's going to be a waste of like Google's going to get confused. Like, why are all these Canadians writing fake reviews? So she sent it to all of her local friends and she said, just write me a review. That is going to get your Google listing to show up organically. And no one tells you this stuff. Tell them to add pictures of the place. Tell them to add photos. Put your smile makeovers up there. Put a photo of yourself if you're comfortable up there. Whatever the nicest things are, put a photo of that. Put videos up. Whatever you're like, if you've created any content, transfer that over. So the next thing you want to do once your Google listing is optimized is it looks good. URL is there, your hours are correct, everything looks pretty. Is get your patients to review you, right? This is all free stuff. I mean, SEO, it's like I pay what I think in the beginning, like 700 a month or something crazy. But Google listing, doing all of this is free, right? So get your existing patients to review you. So we have a little digital like QR code that we keep on our front desk. And in all the patients who've had great experiences, not the troubled patients, because there'll always be a few, all the patients that have great experiences, especially new patients that leave happy, my staff is required to get the review before they leave, right? So they say, hey, we're so excited to see you. If you enjoyed your experience with Dr. Khan, can you please leave us a review? We don't tell them what to say. We don't tell them, you have to write these words, but if you just ask, they will do it and they can review you on Google, which is the most common. But I also noticed that your reviews on Yelp and Apple Maps also matter. I learned that this year and I hadn't even checked my own reviews and I realized, oh man, I have like no reviews. And if you're using an iPhone or if you're connected to a certain software, you're only using these other softwares. So if you're using like Apple Maps to get to the location, it'll only show like your Yelp reviews or your Apple Maps reviews. So, make sure those aren't terrible, right? Or they don't look too shabby. So get your patients to ask your patients to get reviews and then even hand them your business cards. Like get a great experience. Like, there'll always be patients that are like, thank you so much. You guys are so nice. I always say, and if I like a patient, I always send them with my business cards. I'll say, hey, I love having patients like you. I mean, you probably know more amazing people like you. Can you hand these out? Put it in your like lunch break room or whatever. Hand it out. And I will tell you, most of them will be super thrilled to do it for you. And it's totally free. And you get nice people know nice people. And then the next thing is investing in Facebook, Google ads. So this I would, if you don't know anything in marketing, I would hire someone to review your ads. So make a Facebook page, same thing, do the above, optimize it, put right photos, all of that. You're not going to get a ton of traction and followers unless you're consistently posting content, but you can run ads. So you can say, $4,000 implant special or whatever it is. And you can hire someone to just run these ads for you to figure out what's working and what's not working. I do this part myself. Like, it takes a lot of, I wouldn't even consider myself an expert, but it takes a lot of playing around with different budgets and all of that. I don't spend a ton on Facebook ads. I do spend a lot in Google ads because I want to rank in paid search for the right keywords. And I do spend money on Instagram ads. Okay. And so after your bases are covered, now you can start an Instagram account and a TikTok account, and a YouTube Shorts account or whatever it is. Like after the bottom is done, you can now start and do, be on social media and create content because now you're able to drive patients to places that are developed, right? What are they going to do? They're going to Google you when they see you on social media. They're going to look at your reviews, and then they're going to look at your website for like pricing or specials or your contact information, right? Or even the cases you've posted. So I see a lot of people doing this like the opposite way. And then if you've looked at it, it's like 200 views on a reel, 500 views on a reel. Like, where are you driving your family and friends to? Nothing. Any questions before we get into the social media part about SEO and Google listing?
We had a question. Are there dental specific SEO experts?
Yes, so many. So many. The moment you buy a practice, you get flooded.
And then, is there a certain percentage of collection that you allocate for marketing and any recommendations for a specific marketing agency to use?
No, I've never used a marketing agency. The whole point of this is so you don't have to. Um, I I personally think anyone that's hired a marketing agency, I've never seen them become happy. Like I've never seen them happy with the amount that they're spending. Um, that's why I think it's good to hire. I would hire an ads expert and I would hire an SEO expert and a web design expert. And those are one-time costs typically, to optimize things. And sometimes you may want to, but like be very careful when you hire an ads expert because they're going to expect you to spend like, oh, let's just put $2,000 between like in this ad. And I'm like, no, I'm not putting $2,000 in one single ad and I don't even know if it works. I'm going to try it with like $500 here and $500 there. And then if something starts to trend, I'll put more money into it. So good experts will guide you in that way, but don't just hire an ads expert and they'll say, well, yeah, like just pay me $5,000 a month. That's what they're trying to do is they're trying to act like a marketing agency and tell you this is where you should put your money. Any other questions?
Not yet has popped up.
Okay, perfect. So let's go to social media. So now you've done this, now you want to start your social media accounts. I would say the one thing that I regret is not jumping onto things faster. So I think when I did start my Instagram, I should have started my TikTok because ultimately you're creating content. Yes, the format of that content differs, and it's really not that easy to use the same content for Instagram versus TikTok. Like you always have to make the TikTok videos longer and all that stuff. And the other one that I regret not hopping onto, which I still have to get on, is YouTube Shorts, which I've seen a lot of dentists. Like I posted a case, I think maybe only one case, and I got like 12,000 views. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that it got 12,000 views. But the newer the platform, the more views you're going to get. The older the platform, like Instagram, it's going to be tough to get views. If I know a lot of people that are spending money, they have marketing agencies, they have social media experts or video editors shooting content for them, creating content for them. And then when I look on their page, it's like 500 views for real, and that they've just spent two or $3,000 a month, giving the social media person to record and edit and all of that. So I would say get on as many platforms as you can if you have the time and post content. Now, when you're posting content, especially if you want to do cosmetic dentistry, which I assume a lot of you guys are interested in doing that, you want to take some kind of a photography course. If you're not following him, I think his name is Dentist Camera. It's like Dr. Alex something. He's amazing. He has so many photography tips on his Instagram page. And one of the things that I still want to do is take a proper photography course because I'm not the smartest person with technology and learn how to do excellent photography. I've taken a few courses, believe it or not, and I don't think it clicks. I think I need to take an exclusive photography course That's on one of my to-do lists even now. And that's why I do a lot of video taking because I feel like I take great videos, but photography, now I just get someone to come in and take my photos for me. And that's not always affordable for people that are already doing cosmetic dentistry because these people are expensive. Get a good camera after you take your photography course. Oh, and then of course, do a cosmetic dentistry course. Smile Trend is a great one to do. Those are I've done a couple. Brian Harris, I've done his course. Marvin Berlin, I've done his course. Smile Trend, level 1 and level 2, I've done that. Digital smile design is on my list. So, because I know I'm already going to get questions on which ones should I take. I think Smile Trend is a great one. So take those courses and, I think that's really good investment because they don't teach you, I don't think they even teach us like 5% of cosmetic dentistry in dental school, at least or unless you do like a residency, at least in my school. After you do that, get a good camera, record all of your cases. The earlier you can start recording your cases, A, it's really good practice because you see your own errors. And then B, it's really good to document everything. Like I actually use my photos for a lot of things. I'll have patients come in and say, well, this tooth is just this way and this tooth is just this way. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't want to do orthodontics. And look, this is where we started. So, I mean, there's only so much we can do with veneers, right? Now my approach to that is different. I build very comprehensive cases. And if I need to do ortho, you kind of have no option but to do ortho with me before you do your veneers. Because I'm more confident in my treatment planning. But before I'd give patients so many options, and you will too, because you will price yourself low, you will try to get practice, and you will try to like make the patient happy enough to do a cosmetic course, and you will make errors. And that's how you learn. So it's all part of the process, but get a good camera because you'll learn, you'll look at your work and be like, oh my God, look at my first case versus what I post now is just like, oh gosh, I can't even look at my first few cases because sometimes I'm like, they're so bad. Um, so we all start somewhere, but if you don't have a camera, you're not documenting everything. And then create free content. So obviously, be providing value is what's important on Instagram or any kind of TikTok and you know creating edited content. I know I'm starting to do that now where it's edited and it's just easier for me to do it like once a month. But the content that trends is raw content, raw reactions, raw you being a day in the life. Okay. So create as much content as you can. Any questions before we move on specifically to Instagram?
Whoever has the phone 19167, I'm not gonna repeat the whole thing. Do you mind just muting for us? And if you're trying to message, or if you're trying to ask a question, just please message it in the chat. Or you can, I don't know, it sounds a little muffled. Someone asks, which company do you prefer for website design?
I use a company called ProSites and they do my SEO. They have a team of experts and they have different packages. It's like bronze, gold, and silver. And then they have like a platinum where they like custom design your website. I think that I initially bought the platinum package and they made me a brand new website. And then now I'm on like their basic package just to maintain my SEO on that website. 46 people on what is it? Tuesday night. Okay, let's go on to the next one then. Okay, Instagram. Um, so remember you've got your pyramid sorted, right? Things are going to fall in place slowly. The pyramid doesn't go up in a month. The pyramid goes up in like 6 to 8 months, okay? So don't feel like, oh my God, I bought a practice. I got to do all these things today. It takes time. Um, Now you have an Instagram, and I can speak to this because this is really where I draw most of my cosmetic patients from. I don't claim to be any kind of influencer. So please take my tips for just what's worked for me. I know there's amazing dental content creators, Joyce the dentist, Michael Allen, like there's so many that do a much better job of content creation than I do, in my opinion. So just take my tips with a grain of salt. I am like, I'll tell you what my strategy is or what kind of what I want to do, and then we'll go from there. So the first thing you want to do is you want to optimize your bio. So I see a lot of like bios that look so messy, right? It's like name and doctor, just first name or something crazy, and no location, no focus on what you provide in terms of services. No link to book. Like this is like the most common thing. No phone number. I mean, if you look at my bio, it's I've got to make it clearer. I had a little bit of an issue, so I had to rearrange it. But my bio is clear. It's like location, I do veneers, this is my name. If you type in Dr. Khan veneers, I'm the first person that pops up. So it must be working. Um, so this is really important. Like make it neat, clean. Don't put random emojis that don't make sense. Like, and this really is where my second point is really important. So who is your target audience? This is where I think 99% of dental content creators, I don't like, so there's dental influencers, and then there's marketing and social media for dentists. If you want to be a dental influencer, your primary job is to market yourself. Your content is going to be around yourself. And likely you're going to attract dental students, other dentists, and friends and family on that account, correct? And then hopefully, like if you post enough personal stuff, random, like a bigger following. Is that really going to bring patients to your door? I personally don't think so. So when I first started, I started posting. I wasn't going to go down this journey. So I started posting stuff for other dentists. Well, those dentists are never going to do a smile makeover with me. Those dental students are not going to come to me for veneers. So I had to stop posting random stuff about myself and about being a good dentist and say, what is my purpose on Instagram? Is it to be an influencer or is it to be a cosmetic dentist? My purpose on Instagram is to be a cosmetic dentist. My content is very targeted. If you look through my page, in my opinion, it's very boring because it's very business oriented. And my now content team is like, please post personal things, please post personal things. So in the beginning, though, if you're like all over the place and you're just trying to market yourself, and I see all these people like they're posting just the most random things like rants and this and that. I really want to say, how many cosmetic cases are you doing? Because I do quite a few when I go to cosmetic courses and like people are sharing how many cases they do. I'm like, I'm kind of doing more than what a lot of you are doing. And you guys have been practice longer than I have. So think about how you want to make your money and who is your target audience. My tips are for somebody that just wants to do cosmetic dentistry, right? And wants to be known as a good cosmetic dentist. My tips are not for people that want to be dental influencers. I am not a dental influencer. So for my page, I always tell my team, the star of my page has to be the patient. It cannot be Dr. Khan, which I know it sometimes are like, well, no, people want to see, but I want the patient story to be the motivator. I want the patient's story to be like front and center. Like so and so patient had a, eating disorder and had erosion, and this is how we fixed their smile. Like, and then I want to, you know, share that and boost that. And then hopefully people that have the same story are going to come on my page and say, oh my God, look, she helped me. And then they're going to send their friends or family members or whatever. So you have to decide which way you want to go. I know Joyce does such a great job. Joyce the dentist does such a great job of, she started, I think, just being this amazing dental influencer. And she also does cosmetic cases. And I know she's a great cosmetic dentist, probably even better than I am, but I think she's a little bit of an anomaly. I think when you're starting out, you really have to pick which one you're going for. Sorry if I'm harping on this, but I see a lot of pages where I'm like, yeah, I mean, patients are not going to relate to that content. Like you posting your fitness routine or whatever it is. And that's the first thing you're posting. Don't copy, but do what works. So I would say focus on trends. So a lot of the times, like TikTok has trends, and in the beginning when I started, the largest number of eyeballs you'll get in the beginning is through trends. And that's where you can be fun, like post your team, your family, or whatever you want to do, be as personal as you want to be, as you're comfortable with, but tie them back to dentistry. So if people are following you and they're following you because you're a fun dental office, that's going to make them want to come to your office, right? Because you're not just saying I'm boring and posting in cosmetic cases, but or if you're talking about your family and like your child lost a tooth and you post that journey, they're going to relate to that and want to come to your office because they're going to say, well, oh, look, she really knows what she's doing, right? So focus on the trends and in the beginning, get as many eyeballs as you can. Post, post, post. You're supposed to post every day. Some people, I'm like, you're posting, but what are you posting? So go back to your why. Is it to be an influencer and, be all about yourself? And that's okay. Dental influencers are a thing. Or is it to do more dentistry? And, there's lots of people that are doing both, but it takes time, I think, to build up that kind of an audience. Like, yeah. And then find your own style later. So I'm kind of at a phase of Instagram where I'm tired of posting trends. I'm going to post what I want to say and what I think is interesting, and people can identify with it or they can say that's not for me. And I also know what resonates with my patients because now I've had enough patients come through the door that I know like what they want to hear and what they want to see. And so I post for those patients. So that's where I'm at currently. And then staying true to yourself. I mean, I think this is really important. You have to do what you're comfortable with. Not every person is comfortable with TikTok dances, as fun as they are. And if you are, and that makes you fun, I love watching stuff like that. Am I comfortable doing that? No. So I choose not to do that. And I choose to find other ways to be fun as a really boring person. So, any questions on Instagram?
Just waiting on the chat if anyone has anything.
Gosh, I feel like I'm talking a lot. And also just tell Nadia if y'all are still following. Should we move on, Nadia?
Yeah, I think we can move on to the next topic.
Okay,
Cool.
perfect. Oh, okay. So I was asked to present a cosmetic case, and